welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be giving some Asian book recommendations. If you watched my previous video, you would know that the Asian Readathon is coming up for the month of May, because the month of May is actually Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So one of the challenges for the Asian Readathon is to read a book recommended by an Asian. So I kind of took it upon myself to be that Asian who gives you some book recommendations. The first books I'm going to start off with are all by Asian authors. The first books I'm going to start off with are all by Filipino and Filipino American writers. The first one is Dog Eaters by Jessica Hagedorn. Jessica Hagedorn is one of the more well-known Filipino authors. Dog Eaters is actually one of her more known works as well. I read this one for college and really enjoyed reading it. A lot of Filipino literature that I've read deals with cultural identity, cultural oppression, American idealization, and themes like that, and that is very present in this book as well. This book is centered around a whole cast of characters. It says from movie stars to waiters, from a young junkie to the richest man in the Philippines, and they all kind of have different like major events that they're kind of spiraling towards. And then at the center of everything is a girl named Rio who grows up to live in America and look back. It says, and look back with longing on the land of her youth. Again, definitely themes of cultural identity and cultural oppression in this book. I really enjoyed this one. If you want a quicker read, I have Monstrous by Leslie Tenorio. This is a collection of short stories. Leslie Tenorio is a Filipino-American author, and these stories are all very different, but they're all very similar in the themes of cultural oppression, American idealization, cultural assimilation, things like that. My favorite story in this one is called The View from Culion, and it revolves around a leprosy colony in the Philippines. That one is definitely my favorite. The writing in here is really well done. The next book I have here is one that I've already talked about and I just recently read, and it's America Is Not the Heart by Elaine Castillo. This book revolves around a woman named Hero who is kind of shunned from her family in the Philippines and moves to America, to California, to live with her uncle, and she kind of grows a relationship with her cousin. Again, more of the like cultural identity and trying to fit in America as an immigrant. And there's also LGBTQ rep in this book as well. The food references in this book will make you want to eat all the time, especially Filipino food. Like every time they talked about pancit, I just wanted to go get pancit. So this book might make you hungry, just a warning. The next book I have is by an author from Lebanon, and that is Khalil Gibran. This is his book called The Beloved, Reflections on the Path of the Heart. Khalil Gibran is most known, I think, for his book The Prophet. It's one of those books that like in Barnes & Noble, it's on the table that's like books to read when you graduate college or whatever. It's definitely a great book, but this one is not as well known, but it's my favorite of his. If you've never read anything by Khalil Gibran, you have to go read something by Khalil Gibran because his writing is just second to none. This book is just amazing. It offers insight on what it means to be human, what it means to feel, and to live, and it is just gorgeous. Again, a very quick read. It's 102 pages, so you could get through this in one sitting, and yeah, definitely recommend this one. The next book I have is really hard for me to describe. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but that's The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. This takes place in India, and it centers around these two siblings who are growing up in India during kind of civil unrest. There's like Marxist activists kind of in their family and in their like world that they're growing up in, and it's about them trying to get through their childhood despite the tensions that are going on around them. These are kind of upended when their English cousin and aunt come to live with them. It is just it's a gorgeous book, and it's one that I definitely want to reread. I feel like this is one of those books that you read once and then you want to reread it again, and you'll like get something new from it each time you read it. I didn't even know this. It won the Booker Prize, which makes sense. So yeah, definitely recommend this. The next books I have are by Chinese American authors, and the first one I have is a book that I briefly mentioned in my last video, and it's Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. Everything I Never Told You centers around a girl named Lydia, who is the favored daughter in her family. She has like everything going for her, and one day she's found dead in a lake, and it's kind of then it kind of shifts to her younger sister and the family dealing with the grief and dealing with secrets that they've all kept from each other, and it is just a really beautiful novel, and I loved this book so much. If you want to read another Celeste Ng aside from Little Fires Everywhere, you can read Everything I Never Told You. The next book I have is actually a graphic novel that I really enjoyed when I read it for college, and it is American Born Chinese by Jean Lewin Yang. This book has 3 different storylines that it follows, but its main theme again goes back to cultural identity, cultural oppression, cultural assimilation, and one of the stories follows a boy named Jin who just wants to be an all-American boy, but he's having a hard time fitting in because he's the only Chinese American boy in his school. And then the other story revolves around a boy named Danny, who is the all-American boy and kind of has everything going for him, except every year his cousin named Chin Ki comes to visit and kind of embarrasses him like immensely, and Chin Ki is kind of like a caricature of all of the Chinese stereotypes there are, and the last story revolves around a Monkey King, which is totally different but definitely ties back into all of those same themes. I just really enjoyed this one. The art style is really fun. There's one page, and I really enjoyed this book. So if you want to pick up a graphic novel, they're definitely a quicker read. The next books I have are by 2 of my favorite Japanese authors. The first is Banana Yoshimoto. Her books are amazing. They're gorgeous and very short, so if you want to get some quick reads in, again, those are probably good to pick up. Here are the books that I have by Banana Yoshimoto. As you can see, they're very small, but they all kind of pack a big punch. A lot of her books have that like whimsical, magical realism, surrealism style that's very prevalent, I found, in Japanese literature, but her books also deal with grief a lot and heavier topics. So even though her writing style has this like whimsical lightness to it, there's definitely like darker topics being discussed. My favorite one I have here is Kitchen, and this one revolves around a girl whose last living relative, her grandmother, passes away, and she is taken in by a family friend and kind of learns to like go through life with her new like found family despite like dealing with grief, and I just really enjoyed this one. The books I have here by Banana Yoshimoto, if you want to know, are Kitchen, and this one actually has a short story at the end called Moonlight Shadow that's also really good. There's NP, Goodbye Sugumi, Lizard, and Asleep. The other book I have to recommend, I actually sadly can't find my copy. I've moved so many times in the past couple of years that I seem to have misplaced it. I can't imagine that I would have ever gotten rid of it because I am, it's one of my favorite books and I just don't think I would have gotten rid of it. And it's Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. Haruki Murakami is actually on my TBR for the Asian Readathon. I plan on reading Sputnik Sweetheart, but Norwegian Wood is one of his more well-known books and well-loved as well. It has rave reviews, which is warranted. The book is centered around 2 characters who have formed a bond of grief after their best friend commits suicide, and it's about them it's a coming of age novel. They're in their like college years in the 60s, and again, themes of grief are in there, and it also ties in music. So the title Norwegian Wood, if you don't know, is a Beatles song, and the book definitely weaves in like the music of the 60s, and it just has like this like, I don't know, I love the atmosphere of Norwegian Wood. And if you're thinking of, if you've never read Haruki Murakami and you're thinking of picking him up, I think Norwegian Wood is a fantastic starting point. The other book I've read, the first book I ever read by Haruki Murakami was 1Q84, which is a monster. So probably not the best starting point. That's why I was thinking about recommending this, but this one would probably take you all of May to read. And two, I think there's so much going on in 1Q84 that it wouldn't really be a great jumping off point. I think Norwegian Wood is definitely a better option if you're planning on kind of getting into Haruki Murakami or Japanese literature. So yeah, those are the books that I definitely recommend if you're trying to pick up an Asian book and you need an Asian to recommend it to you. If you are participating in the Asian Readathon, please let me know what you plan on reading. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Did I already say that? I'm really looking forward to the Asian Readathon and reading more Asian works, and hopefully I have more books by the end of the month to put in my Asian book recommendations list. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you have not yet. I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.